Hi there, my name is Victoria, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing a math activity that I've created with the concept being counting. So this activity, I have put the age for preschool. However, I also definitely think that this could be incorporated into kindergarten as well, but for the sake of the assignment I just did preschool, as I know that after being in a preschool room during a field placement, I've definitely been able to see the different learning milestones that the different ages within a preschool room have learned and were learning to do. So I wanted to make sure I could do something that was flexible and developmentally appropriate for both for all the ages in preschool and even up to kindergarten, just in case this is an activity that wanted to be used in kindergarten. It still could be, but it wouldn't be too easy for them as well. So there's a little bit of everything in this activity that will allow for a lot of growth and for a lot of learning. And so without further ado, I will share what the activity is, and I will definitely put a thorough explanation. So this is an overview of what the cards will look like for the activity. Alright, so I did just want to talk briefly about the different materials that I had used for this activity. So to start, I used some white paper muffin liners or muffin cups, however you want to call them. And you just want to make sure that you have enough that you can get through the activity for. So you don't need to buy multiple packages or anything, you just need to have as many as your game will require. So for mine, I did numbers 1 through 20, so I did 2 different sets of them. And I also did make some extras just from numbers 1 through 10. That way they can, in case multiple children want the same number, or if more of your preschoolers are younger, you can definitely use just numbers 1 through 10 just to kind of get started. And so you just need to make sure you have enough to cover all your bases. And I didn't even use half of a package of muffin liners, so you don't need to buy a bunch of them. I usually have leftovers, so I just did use those just because I know that they're available. And now my next material item that I do have is pom-poms. So I really like this package of pom-poms because it has the bigger ones and it also has some smaller ones. So it's great because then you could use your bigger pom-poms for the lower numbers and then obviously the smaller pom-poms for the higher numbers. That way it doesn't overfill the paper cups, which is, you don't want them everywhere, so it's just easier if you stick to the smaller ones for the bigger numbers and then the bigger pom-poms for the smaller numbers, if that makes sense. Now the next material item I used for just some index cards. They're just white. I wrote on the white side of them. These ones, however, are white on one side and ruled on the next. But if I'm bringing this into placement with me, I would want them just to be white. That way it just draws all of the focus onto the numbers and to the activity itself. I wouldn't want the lines to be a distraction. However, the lines aren't really seen, so it doesn't really matter, but for the aesthetic purpose, I would want them to be white on both sides, or maybe use some cardstock paper. Now the next material item I used within this activity would just be a set of kitchen tongs that just make sure you can use them. However, I don't know if I'd bring a full kitchen sized tong just because preschoolers do have smaller hands, but just for the purpose of this video and this assignment, I did just use kitchen tongs. Now the next material item that I used were these paint markers. So these paint markers, they are paint, however they're non-toxic, they don't stain on clothing. They look like markers, and I found them to be a lot brighter than normal markers, which is why I reached for them. I also did use some just normal Crayola markers for some of them as well. Then I remembered I had these on hand, so I did want to use them. Now the next item I do have is just some Safe Elmer's school glue, just so that I could glue these pieces together. Just so I could glue these together. And so if I were to be in placement implementing this, there are definitely some changes that I would want to make. So if I'm doing this in placement, again, I would definitely want this to be white on both sides, or white cardstock or something that are all the same size. But I'd also want these to be laminated. That way I could wash them, reuse them, and keep them clean and sanitized between each use, especially during the pandemic. We all know how important sanitization is at this point. So I definitely make sure that they were laminated, that way they can be reused and cleaned and so forth. Now, with that being said, so there are two parts to this activity. So there's the one where the muffin liner and the index card are already attached, and then there's one where you can match them. So with that being said, I'd want to also include the adhesive Velcro strips. So I want to put some Velcro on here and here just so they can match them up and take them off and reuse them. So I definitely would include the Velcro. So all of the, and with them being laminated, there's a section where the kids can learn to connect the dots and to write the numbers. So I'd also want to make sure I'm bringing in some white board markers or an expo marker or something that can be rubbed off. That way they can still be reused. So just to recap all the materials that I'd want to use, so it would be paper like the muffin cups, so the muffin liners and cups are just made with paper. Pom-poms, so I'd want to have, again, the two different sizes. I probably want to make sure that I'm buying a bag of small pom-poms and a bag of large, but just for the demonstration of this video, I'm just going to be using these ones. Another set of kitchen tongs. Now you want to make sure you have one for each child participating within this activity. And again, I want to reach for some smaller sets of tongs just because they do have smaller hands. So I'd want to use either the white index cards or cardstock paper. I would want to make sure that I have glue on hand, so I might want to use a stronger glue that's still safe for them to like be around and stuff. And I want to make sure that I have my markers, that way I can make add more details and stuff to it. So the extra materials that I would need to use would be laminating sheets, either the laminating sheets or like a machine or something. That way they can be reused. So I'd be adding laminating sheets, some Velcro adhesive strips, as well as some white index markers. So those are all the materials that you'll need to complete this activity. And it's just up to you how you want the aesthetic of it all to be and so forth. So those are the materials that you would need. Just to get an idea of what this does look like, I'm just going to show you all the numbers. Now this is not how it would be laid out. However, this is just to show what it looks like. So there are the amount of dots per number. I'm just going to show you all of them. That way they can reframe back to the dots. That way they can remember how many pom-poms to put in them. And yeah, so this is what the cards look like once they are complete. So again, I just wanted to show what the cards look like before they're implemented. Now with this, you see that I have a card that says 12 and my muffin liner is 12, so I'm just going to be adding 12 pom-poms into the muffin liner cup, and it's really great using the tongs to work on tool use within the fine motor skills. It will definitely help with that as well. So I'm just filling up until I get to 12, and then we'll be moving on. So now this is the second set of cards that I've created, so I have them separate, so my muffin liner is separate from the sheets. So these are the sheets that I would want to be laminated, and here I'm just trying to match up 10 to the right muffin liner cup, and as you saw, 17 and 18 are clearly not the same number. So you just have to process of elimination, and finally we did get the right one. So now that we have them matched up, we'll just count 10 pom-poms out, and they can also use the circles on the index cards. That way they can count to 10 before or after, just for fun. And so yeah, now I'm just putting them in, and this is where we grab the expo marker, and this is where we would be writing on them, just so we can learn how to do numbers. And this is where kindergartners will be able to use this as well. So that is what my activity looks like. And again, I just wanted to go over the concept. So the subject is math and the concept is counting. But with this activity, it's great because not only are they counting, but they're learning to recognize numbers and the quantity associated with the numbers, and they can also learn to write numbers 1 through 20. And I don't expect them to be perfect at writing the numbers or anything. It's just for fun and some extra practice. Now, my teacher's resource for this is the entire activity, basically, because it is all handmade and it can all be reused. So that's the whole purpose of this, is that way it can be reused and so forth. So in the end of all of it, I just put it in a big box, like a shoebox type of thing, and I put all the pom-poms into a Ziploc bag. So I hope you enjoyed the math activity and that you are doing well and staying safe. Thanks so much.